Hello, everyone. If you're just now joining us, it is 12 o'clock Mountain Time. I'm Valeria Big Eagle with Friends of the Children, Sapa. I serve as the executive director, and I'm just really honored to have Lekshi Rick here, Huyamani, who's going to be teaching us about Wiwayang Wacipi and how that helps us as people. Hi, Lekshi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna make you a co-host so that you're able to share your screen. And so today's teaching was brought to us by the South Dakota Humanities Council, and I'll go ahead and hand it off to you, Lekshi Wopila Tunka, for sharing your knowledge with us and with our public community so that we can reconnect with who we are as people. Wopila.
Okay, trying to share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Uh-huh. Yes.
All right. So we'll get started. Some of you are familiar with Sundance, Wiwayang Wacipi. And translated, the literal translation is watching the sun as they dance. So it's one of the sacred ceremonies, 7 sacred rites of the Oglala Lakota Oyate, commonly known as the Oglala Sioux tribe. So there's other groups of Lakotas that make up 7 bands under the Tituan Oyate. So we are one of 7 bands, and there's the others are like Sichangu, Honkpapha, Poforju, Wichasha, and so on. So there's 7 under there. So the Titoa are one of 7 groups under the Ocheti Shakoi. So these ceremonies, we believe, in according to our oral history and our teaching, were brought to us along with the sacred pipe. But before, when the sacred pipe was brought to us by a sacred woman who came from up in the stars with the gift of the sacred pipe, we had 2 sacred rites already, which was the Humblecha, the Wiwayang Wacipi, the Humblecha and the Inipi, the vision quest, and the sacred purification ceremony, commonly known as sweat lodge. So the Wiwayang Wacipi is one of those 7 rights. So we got the Sundance later on. And you see a picture of a Sundance that was taken in 1889, right before the Wounded Knee Massacre of December 29th, 1890. So this was south of the community of the town south of the reservation here called White Clay, and it's in the Nebraska area. But at that time, I'm not sure if Nebraska was a state yet. But this is still under the Ocheti Shakoni, the 1868 treaty boundaries. So the last Sundance held away from the reservation. So we were brought onto the Pine Ridge Reservation about 1878 or 79, right in that era. So that's when this reservation where I'm speaking from, where I'm from, the Oglala Lakota Oyate reside. And so there's about an estimated about 45,000 of us that live on this reservation. And we were divided up into 9 districts. So but before that, prior to that, we had our own Tioshpayas, and they had our own names, and we had our own bands. So where I live now is the people are called Wajaje, and they merged at one time way back in history with the Osage people of Oklahoma. So the Osage people claim us and we claim them. And if you ever hear an Osage speaker, they speak our language too. You'll pick up a lot of our words in their language. And if you watched uh, that movie that just recently came out, um, Killers of the Harvest Moon or something like that, there's Osage people in there. They're speaking our language. So, and then over the hill to the east is the Sioux people, where my father is from. So, a lot of the stories and the teachings that I have come from the Sioux people and the Wajaje people. So, we're going to discuss briefly today because this is a real in-depth subject and story. It could probably be a curriculum in itself, but because we're limited to an hour, we won't go into the complete detail of the ceremony. So this Sundance was held south of White Clay, Nebraska, on a place called Larrabee Creek, and it was the last Sundance held away from the reservation. So this is, you see the lodge of the original way we danced. So 28 poles inside this lodge. And by the way, they don't have tarps there when you dance. Those tarps are there because this is the day after the Sundance ending, and it's on what they call the giveaway day, or the day that they have a giveaway. So the tarps are for the people that are sitting under. But during the dance, there's no tarps up there. So so 28 poles go to the center there, and the picture there is a picture of my older sister cousin. Her mother and my father are brother and sister, and she just got done blessing the food for the feast. So she's praying with the food, and then she's gonna put it under the tree. She's no longer with us. She made her journey to the spirit world. So this is how we danced long ago when before we were on the reservation. And if you notice, the picture prior to this one is uh, similar to this, but except without the poles. So these poles are anywhere from 45 to 55 feet long. And so we cannot, there's no poles in the Black Hills long enough to make this lodge. So these poles come from either the Bighorn Mountains or the Wind River Mountains uh, in on the Arapaho and Shoshone reservations. Right west of them is the big Wind River Mountains. That's where we go to get these poles. So this is the original way that they danced before pre-reservation days. They moved to the arbor, that type of Sundance where you see today, you only see the arbor of where there's what they call an arbor where there's pines on top, but there's no poles like this. And there'll probably be a picture later on of that. But the reason that they no longer had this type of Sundance is because they couldn't get the poles. Not only could we not leave the reservation, they allowed us not to, that we couldn't leave the reservation. Technically, we were and still are prisoners of war on these reservations. We used to have to get uh, permission to leave the reservation. And there was still people out there that saw us as enemy and there's a law on the books in South Dakota, and it was just now stricken from the books in about 2004. And it says, if you see a group of Indians of 5 or more, you can consider them a war party and you can shoot at them. So this was just now repealed around 2005. So you can see how we were taking just up to recently our own lives into our hands by traveling to different towns to shop off the reservation. So anyway, so this is the kind of lodge that was at Deer Medicine Rocks when Sitting Bull had his vision of the soldiers falling into camp. So this is the original way of dancing, but very few people remember this and remember that this is the way we used to dance. They think that all sun dances were like today, like with the arbor, which they could have been built, but this lodge tells a story because there's 28 poles and it's divided into 4 times 7. So each set of 7 poles represent something. So this is another picture of uh, a Sundance held in 1899. And this, you see the picture up there. It says this this dance took place right before the Battle of Little Bighorn. Um, that's not true. This was in 1899. This was taken, um, and it was right close to the town, right on the reservation border of White Clay, on the reservation side. Uh, right there, there used to be some stores there, but they're all gone now, and this is where this was taken. So, um, I mean, let's be practical. If this was right before the Battle of Little Bighorn, do you think our people would allow a photographer into a camp and uh, allow him to take pictures? I don't think so, because we were in a state of war at that time. So, um, if a photographer was crazy enough to enter into a camp, he probably wouldn't come out alive. So, that's not true there. That's an example of how sometimes our history is distorted. So this is, for those of you who do not know him, this is Frank Foolscrow. He was a holy man that he was born in 1890 and he died in 1889 at the age of 99 years old. And figures in um, to our um, history of Sundance. He's a really important person in modern times because he revived the Sundance publicly, along with a man named William Spotted Crow, and my grandfather Samuel Rock, and Mr. Foolscrow. So Mr. Foolscrow was a young man at that time. So my grandfather Samuel Rock and William Spotted Crow took him as an apprentice to teach him about the Sundance so that when they were gone, then he would take the Sundance on. So he conducted the Sundance till 1952 when he asked the Bureau of Indian Affairs if they would allow piercing of the flesh again. Because from 1928 to 1952, they allowed public Sundances again, but they could not do the flesh piercing. So he went to Washington and uh, lobbied Congress. So they sent it back down to the BIA superintendent and said, "You handle it and you decide what to do." So the South Dakota congressmen at that time, I don't know their names, but uh, they said to the BIA superintendent here, you handle it. So he called Grandfather Foolscrow to the BIA office and they told him, you can have public piercing again, he said. And he said, but they said, you will be held liable for anything, any kind of injury, somebody bleeds to death, if there's any infection and any injuries resulting from it, we'll hold you liable. He said, okay. He said, I understand that and I'll be held liable. But it's because he had confidence in his medicine. So, uh, In 1952, they had another public piercing. Only one man pierced, and his name was William Schwagman, Bill Schwagman from the nearby Rosebud Reservation. He pierced, and I guess it made. Of course, I was only 1 years old, but I get my mother said it made a lot of news, and a lot of people flocked to the Sundance by the thousands to watch him pierce because it was the first time there would be a piercing in modern times. And there's pictures of Mr. Schweigerman. He also went by the name of Bill Eaglefeather. There's a picture in a book called Lame Deer Seeker of Visions, and it shows him he's piercing with an eagle claw. And this was the public piercing in 1952, and they allowed photographs of it. So he's the first man to be pierced in modern times at the Sundance, thanks to Grandfather Fool's Crow. And also there was a man named George Porthunder who helped in the 1928 Sundance because through his father left him a lot of knowledge of how the Sundance was going to be conducted. So George Porthunder helped my grandfather Samuel Locke and William Spotted Crow in that Sundance also. And so they taught grandfather Fool's Crow here about the Sundance. So there's a lot of teaching within it that goes with it. Each part of the ceremony has a story and why they do things a certain way and all of that. So again, here's a picture of grandfather Fool's Crow. So on the story of the Sundance, it was passed down from the old men. And the story goes that how I heard it from my grandfather, Thomas American Horse, was there was a time of hardship and a time of famine among our people, and little children were dying. They were dying of malnutrition and literally starving to death, and the children were crying. So a man sought a vision, a holy man, and he came back down and he said, somebody who volunteers and is brave has to go to the West, and you will receive a gift in the West, and you will bring this back to the people, and from this gift we will live. So the holy men got together and they had a ceremony in a teepee, and they sent this young man, and they gave him a parfleche of food, a buffalo bladder, water container, um, a bow, and some arrows that were blessed by the holy men. And he had to, he walked for whatever reason. Maybe it was before, maybe it was because he was told to do that. So he walked on his journey. And as he walked, he came upon an elderly woman, an unchi, and she looked real frail and looked like she was really hungry. She was thin and gaunt. So he said, grandmother, what are you doing out here? So she said, I'm supposed to meet you here, he said, and give you a blessing. He said, but I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten for a long time. So he took the food out of his parfleche bag, his wokfa, and he fed her. He gave her wasana and some dry meat and some choke cherry patties, and he gave her a drink of water. And here, after she ate, she said, thank you for feeding me. She said, do you know who I am? And he said, no. She said, I'm Wakhanke. And this is a unchi that lives out in the wilderness, and she approaches sometimes young men and young women and gives them gifts of spiritual power, teaches them certain things like ceremonies or certain lessons, and she comes from the creation story. So he said, I am Wakanke. And he said, I gave you a gift. And she left and she vanished. So he looked in his bag, and here there was all kinds of good food. And here, when he looked in his bag, a voice said, this old clown will never go empty. You'll always have food in here. He said, you'll never go hungry. You or your family, he said, will never go hungry. So he ate from it. He started to go, and he came to a real beautiful teepee on his journey, and inside was a beautiful woman, really, really beautiful. And she said, I was expecting you. They said you were going to come, and I have a gift for you that I made for you. And she showed him a pair of real beautiful moccasins that were quilled. So she said, these have special powers. So when you put them on, you'll be able to move like the wind. He said, but I want you to stay here and live with me as you as my husband. She said. But he said, I have to go on a journey to find something for the people because they're having a hard time. So she said, when you return and come back through here, she said, stay here with me and become my husband. So he said that he had to go. He didn't give her a yes or a no, but he left. And here this young gentleman suddenly came upon him on his journey. But he noticed that he just moved his feet, and he would like walking, and he would glide over the ground and cover great distances in a little while. So he was moving along, seeking out what it was and where he was supposed to be. And here this young man came upon him, and he said, and this man was really a handsome man. His face was painted, and he had real long black shiny hair. And he said, I was sent to help you. He said, so, but you have to give me one of your moccasins so that I can travel like you. He said, and he said, I'll be able to help you attain whatever it is you're looking for your people. So he took his moccasin off and gave it to him. And so they started to go, and here this man laughed, and he said, I tricked you, he said. Shiganayalo, he said in the language, in the Lakota language. And suddenly he disappeared. So he looked down, and here both his moccasins were gone. So by taking one side, that he found out that this young man was the Iktomi spirit that came to fool him, and he took those two moccasins. So he continued on, but he again moved like a human, that he could only go at a certain speed. And he went and he continued, and he got to this place where he heard singing. So he got to the top of the hill, and here these people were having a Sundance, and they had a tree in the center, and they were having the Sundance. So he went down in there, and here these people turned into buffalo and then back into people again. And they showed him the Sundance and how to do it. And a voice came out of the sun, and it said that in Lakota, the voice said out of the sun, if you pierce your flesh and splash your blood upon the ground, whatever you ask for will be given to you. So that was the gift that he was supposed to attain. So the buffalo showed him the Sundance, all the different aspects of it and what it means. So um, he started his journey back, uh, and he got to the place where this beautiful woman was. And so she went in, and here she said, I know you were coming back. So I made you another pair of moccasins, but you have to stay here with me and become my husband. So he stayed there, and pretty soon and time passed, and so eventually she got with child, and they had a little boy. So he then didn't want to leave because he didn't want to leave his son. And here one day, two warriors came on foot and said they scratched on the canvas teepee so at the doorway. So he told them to come in. And here they kind of scolded him and said, "You were supposed to go and get something to help the people to live, and here you're living here with this woman, and you forgot about your roles." And they kind of shamed him. So he told his wife, he said, "I have to go back and take that gift." So she said, "I'll go with you." So she put her baby in a cradle board and followed him. And they got back to the camp, and he showed them and taught them about what the buffalo taught him about the Sundance. And so they had Sundance. And after the first year, uh, the country became alive with wild game, deer, antelope, buffalo, and Lakota, the Oglalas became very prosperous in horses, and they said everybody had real fine, beautiful lodges, and they dressed in the finest clothes made from the buffalo hide, and nobody went hungry. There was always plenty of meat for everybody to eat. And this man lived to be at an old age, and then his wife and his son continued, and eventually he passed from this world. And so they say that the spirit of this man resides in the tree at the Sundance, and his name is Najutela, this man who made his journey to the Sundance, to obtain the Sundance. So this is the story of how we got this. And there's an audio clip here. I'll try to, I don't know if I could play it. But I'll try it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Can you hear it?
I can't hear it like she.
You can't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Shoot, I'm wondering too if there's a way we can capture that. It might just be like technical, there's technical difficulties, but
Okay, I'll try something else here again.
okay.
Give me a thumbs up. You hear?
How it happened. The Lakota of
Okay.
Oglalas, as they were camping, a young man and his cousin went to the hills. They were hungry, so the two cousins went out scouting. And as they were sitting on top of the hill, they saw something moving, coming towards them. They saw a beautiful Indian maiden. She had a red dress and a red shawl and red leggings, and she wore quilled moccasins. She had a bundle on her back, and she was the most beautiful Indian maiden the two cousins had ever seen. She told them that she was not of this world, but was from heaven. This Indian maiden was very pretty. One man said, "Cousin, cousin, this maiden is very pretty, and I want to marry her." The other said, "Don't do that." He warned his cousin not to marry her, but the pretty maiden overheard what this warrior said. She came up to him and said, "I will marry you, and so your wish will come true." The maiden made signs to the one that wanted to marry her, so he approached her. The beautiful maiden caused the cloud to envelop them, and when the mist cleared away, only a skeleton remained, with all types of snakes devouring his flesh and moving in all directions. Before this all happened, there were no snakes of any kind in our country. And ever since then, all kinds of snakes remain on this earth. She told the other 100 to go tell the people and tell the man named Standing Buffalo walking that I want to see him and I want the people to have a place prepared for my coming. The teepee entrance must face towards the west. Sage must be used for the people to sit on. She told him that there is something going wrong among the people. That is why I am bringing this holy peace pipe. The new teepee was prepared in the middle of the camp, facing the west with a sage inside to sit on. All the cousins assembled inside the teepee getting ready. Just then, one of them looked out and saw the beautiful maiden coming across the camp and came and stood in front of the teepee. She then walked into the teepee and placed the holy pipe. She faced the council assembled, turned and said, Standing Buffalo walking, I brought you this holy pipe and this message. Use it in your prayers. I want you to pray as often as you can when you are in need. And with these words, she handed the holy pipe to the chief and said, Standing Buffalo walking, praying always with this pipe will give you courage and wisdom. Use this holy pipe. It will help you and your people for a better life and understanding in the future to come. To this day, the holy pipe still remains with the Lakota people. All the people stood watching as she was leaving. She was gone very far when a cloud engulfed her, and when the mist cleared away, and before the eyes of all the councilmen, she was rolled over and over in her place. There then appeared a white buffalo calf, the symbol of abundance and goodwill to all mankind. Up to this day, the Oglala Lakota people obey and honor the holy pipe. Sundance. This is about the spiritual dance, or the so-called Sundance of the Lakota people. It is an annual ceremony of the Lakota people. In 1929, Chief Spotted Crow, who has been conducting the Sundance ceremonies, invited me to help him. I was very young. I accepted, and to this day I am still conducting the Sundance, our religious ceremonies. I am a very old man. I am now 87 years old, but I was never seriously sick in my lifetime. I believe that through my faith and belief in my sacred pipe, I have been given good life. I will pray the four winds prayer before I go on. My grandfather to the west, the Buffalo people, look at me. To the north, the Elk people, look at me. To the east, the Blacktail people, look at me. And to the south, the Owl people, look at me. Grandfather God, have mercy and watch over me. Grandfather God and my grandmother Earth, all good things come from you, and you have given us unseen powers. Today I pray that you will listen to me in my prayers as you have always shown your mercy upon me. You are a woman, a mother, a loving mother, who never denies her love to me. I know you will hear my voice this day, for you have always answered my prayers, and you have always shown your mercy upon me. You have always answered answered those who pray for help and mercy. As I stood before you with my relatives, show us the mercy as always. Fulfill my prayers, my God, my grandfather, have mercy.
Okay, heard you all heard. Hope you all heard that good. That's Matthew King, who was an interpreter for Grandpa Footscrow, and he translated these stories for him. So, moving on, this is the pipe of a Sitting Bull. So this is the pipe he danced with at Deer Medicine Rocks prior to the Battle of the Little Bighorn. And the story goes, the oral history is that they painted the tree, they put their offerings on it, and grandfather Sitting Bull stood back and prayed, and then as he lifted his sacred pipe up, the tree stood up itself and then dropped into the hole after all the preparations were made. So they hurry up and they tamped the tree, and then they built the lodge that, like the one I showed you in the second picture. So this is his sacred pipe here. And I think at the time of his death, this pipe was taken by the cavalry, and now this sacred pipe is in the Smithsonian Institute. So the first man to have vision of Sundance was Kabbalaya, but he was also named Najutila. He had two names. And this was around 2,000 years ago. He danced with his Trahashi, his cousin, Trashagnumpa Medalar. He did the Humblecha for 7 years, 4 days and nights, and received 7 songs and all the instructions to do the ceremony. So you notice, as soon as they returned, he wasn't able to have the Sundance right away because there was still parts of the uh, ceremony that had to be learned, including receiving the 7 songs. So in the beginning, clear up till the early 1970s, they only used those 7 songs at the Sundance. Now, if you go to a Sundance, there's lots and lots and lots of songs because people are composing them. So you hear more and more songs composed every year, and some of them are real pretty songs, and um, they make you feel good. But I told these young people, don't ever forget those original 7. So when you vow to Sundance, you make what they call a wokichunze, a sacred vow. If you do not follow through with your wokichunze, it can mean death. But this also shows your sincerity and seriousness of your vow. So when I discuss this with young people, that's a part of the teachings that they don't want to accept. They said, "Why is that way? That's not good." Or one young person even said, "If that's the case, then it's evil." So I said, "No, it is not evil." I said, "It's only the spirits making sure that we don't go back on our word." Because I've seen people in times of duress and stress would make a vow and then go back on it. So when it's time to Sundance, they don't show up. And some of these young people are still hiding out from me to this day. They avoid me. So, and whatever happened to them, I don't know. I don't dwell on that because that's between them and the creator, but it's a reality. But I think if this wasn't there, people would play with the ceremonies even more than what they do now. So when you opagi the stem, opagi, which means load the sacred pipe with tobacco. That's what opagi means. The stem must face the west. And it comes from the word opagi cheshni, anything that has to occur for life to continue. So that's what it comes from the word. So it doesn't mean fill the pipe. It means opagi cheshni. anything that has to occur for life to continue. There's a saying our grandfathers and unchis said, grandmothers, Chanumpa hupagluze. It's offering the pipe, holding your pipe to the four directions. So when you do that, you're really asking for something that's hard, maybe the life of a person that's dying, and you ask for their life back. And Chanumpa, the word for sacred pipe, it comes from the words Trachan, Numpa, body, and Numpa too. It is representative of the Ihupa, the stem of the pipe, which represents the male aspect, and the Ian, the bowl, which is the female side. When you put these together, you are creating life. All of creation goes into the pipe or the Opagi Jashni. So Ihupa is the stem, or some people call it the Sinte, which also commonly known as Sinte also means tail. In this sense, it means the stem of the pipe. So there are four parts to the Chinupa: the Oyapche, the mouthpiece; Chokata, the middle or the center; the Ihupa, the stem overall. Oglala is the stem meets the Ihupa, the Ian, the stone. So the part that goes into the bowl is called Oglala. And some people tie feathers on their Chinupa, and here are the reasons. Some are just decorating their sacred pipe, but the reasons behind why you tie them on it is if you tie it on the mouthpiece, the oyapche, you are seeking knowledge. Example given, Hamblecha or Wiwayang Wacipi. So if you're going on a vision quest to seek knowledge, are you going into a Sundance to seek knowledge, then you tie your feather on the oyapche close to the mouthpiece. If you tie the middle, the chokata, you are praying for someone who is sick. And then if you tie it at the oagle, where the stem goes into bowl, then you're praying to make peace. So maybe you're sundancing so that your families will come back together, or your tioshpai will come back together, or maybe for the people to come back together, like that. So there are four laws of the pipe, the sacred chanupa, the wob. So it says the first one, it says chanupa kile yuha donchi o ia niwakhankaho, or he. Will you ever lie holding this sacred pipe? Would you ever lie with this pipe? Dakawachinche ki he echanikta he, or ho. Will you do what I ask of you with this sacred pipe? It says oyate ki ohini pathoka wichalozinkta he, or ho. Will you ever turn your back on the laws and teachings of the pipe? Or will you ever turn your back on the people also? Will you ever fool me with this sacred pipe and hurt the people? So whenever you see the Sundancers offering their pipe 4 times at the Sundance, they're asking that person receiving the pipe these 4 questions. So by taking the pipe, you say no, or else you're saying, I'll never do this. What you're saying, you're asking of me. So whenever you smoke the pipe, you give it back to him 4 times or her, and you asking the same questions back. Will you, now that I smoked your pipe, will you ever do this? So that's where that comes from, offering the pipe 4 times. I've seen people come up to me with a cigarette and offer it to me 4 times, but that's not appropriate because the 4 sacred laws of the pipe doesn't apply to a cigarette. See, the cigarette is not on the same level of a sacred pipe. So you chanumpa pakinta or wipe off your chanumpa. Only way to igluashte, right or wrong. So if you make a mistake of some type, if you're carrying a sacred chanupa, then you take your pipe into the sweat lodge, you hit it, let the steam hit it, and you wipe it with sage, and you ask for forgiveness. So then the breath of the Ia and the Inipi provides that wopakete. Apoya your chanupa. Apoya your chanupa means steam, put steam on your sacred pipe. So Sundance, the Wiwayang Wacipi ceremony of life and renewal and rebirth. So the man on the tree represents fertility as does the buffalo. The buffalo also is a representative of the female side and also means life, nurturing, and food. The man is on the south side of the tree and the buffalo is on the north side. This is to make sure everything is balanced. The cherry branch represents the thunderbird's nest, Wakian Tawicoyake in Lakota. We do this to honor their power and ask for pity because in a second they can take our lives away. They also bring rain to us. They put oxygen and electricity into our bodies. Both are needed to breathe, to live. So you need electricity to live and you need the breath to live, the breath of life. The buffalo heart put in the hole for the sacred tree and the wasana is to feed the tree on its 4-day journey to the Nariata, the spirit world. Along with it, it takes our offerings of flags, tithes, but also our flesh offerings. And in Lakota, flesh offerings is chechpi wa'unyapi. When the men pierce, it is called chechpi pachlokapi, piercing your flesh. And women pierce, it's called wiaka ipasi sayapi, meaning to sew feathers to their arms. So when you chanopa opagipi is when you offer your pipe, you take 6 pinches of tobacco, starting with the west, Wiuchbata, to the thunder beings, the unborn, and our relatives that have passed on and reside there. First light was lightning. Life began from that first strike. The Chinupa was brought from the west by Ptesan Trokahewi, daughter of Wahochbi. Daughter of Wahochbi, source of dwelling, which is the first daughter of the moon. Second pinch of tobacco is to the north, Waziata, source of the life of the Tatankoyate, who clothed and nourished us, gave us their lives so we could live. The cleansing wind, Onia, takes care of the illnesses and eradicates them. So the cold is very good for us, even though a lot of us don't like the cold. It's actually cleansing the earth. The third pinch of tobacco is east, Wiyoyampata. So Wiyoyampata means where the source of light is, meaning the sun. So our relatives believe that that's the purpose of the sun rising from the east, to bring light to the earth. So there's a balance between daylight and nighttime. And the Hechako Oyate, protectors of the nation, live here. Ampo Chakpi, Morning Star, is here. She gives us Woksape, helps women, Wahunopa, the two-legged, helps to Trawachin Gluwash Akapi, strengthening our minds. The fourth pinch of tobacco is offered to the Hinha Oyate, Owl Nation, who live here. They watch over the night, and Hahepiki, Awanyakapi, watch over the night and dreams. The fifth pinch of tobacco goes to the sky. And when we offer that, we're offering to the heavens and what flies and what's up in the sky. And then the sixth pinch of tobacco is earth, Unchi and what she provides to us, like all the plants and the food and the animals, and what crawls on earth and crawls under the water. Hey, Chitu.
Wopila Lakshi. That could be a whole curriculum. Like you said, there's so many teachings within each of those slides. It could literally take days.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving us Wiwayang Wacipi 101.
Yeah.
Wopila. And Wopila. And so at this time, we can ask, you can ask like Shirik, Huyamani, if you have any questions or comments. We do have 10 minutes still. All right. Wopila Gaka, Alexandra Holder said.
Mm.
Wopila Tonka, Tara Angle. Wopila from Hawaii, Luta Kulikichi, all of their staff are on as well.
Mm.
Ilama Ate for sharing your time and knowledge. Love you, said Edna Longwolf.
Mm.
Sharon Oni said thank you so much.
Mm.
Hilama Yaye, Vita Dog Skin.
Mm.
Lila Washte Chante Heart.
Mm.
And Lala Wopila Chue Whitney too.
Mm.
Wopila Tonka from the OST Special Education Program, Laura Clifford.
Mm.
Wopila Tonka Gaka. What if a person made a commitment to Sundance for 4 years and the Iaska Wakan passed away before the 4-year commitment was completed, said Susan Hawk.
You still finish it because you didn't make it to him, you made it to the spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still waiting.
Mm-hmm. Oha Wopila, she said.
Mm.
Tumi Linda said Wopila Tonka Ate.
Mm.
Wopila said Selena Gonzalez. And then we have we have a question here. Larfy Jensen Wonder said, thank you so much. Is the cottonwood tree used for the Sundance?
Yes. Sundance. The cottonwood tree is used for the Sundance.
And like there's some teachings behind that too. Like how is the Sundance tree selected?
Usually we will go beforehand, maybe before the first thunderstorm, and then one that is about the height of what we need. It has to be forked a certain way and facing a certain way, and then when it's chopped, it has to fall a certain way also. So that's what is behind it. And they say that the sacred tree, the wagachan, as we say, the cottonwood tree, if you cut one of the limbs, uh, you'll see inside, like say a twig or something, then you'll see the morning star inside it. So that's connected to the morning star.
Mm-hmm. Like you showed us whenever those twigs and you could see it.
Yeah.
Wopila. Lila Wopila, like Patricia May. Vida has a question. My son came into recovery and wants to Sundance. Is there time and other ceremonies, or is there a time and other ceremonies that he should seek to help with his recovery?
Probably do a wopakinte, a spiritual cleansing, where he will come out of the sweat lodge and wipe the sage, burn his old clothes, and then put on new ones. Another one that would help him would be Umbalecha, Vision Quest. And then also Sundance would help him too. And he probably needs a doctoring ceremony for his addiction and if he's undergone any trauma.
Oh, Pilar. Opila Tonka. Susan Hawk said from the Makbia Luta Truth and Healing Program.
Mm.
And Wopila for all of the organizations joining.
Mm.
Any more questions for Lakshmi at this time? We do have a question, and then I bet this it varies, but maybe you could just talk about at the Sundances, your Sundance, what percentage of men dance compared to women?
I'd say about almost half and half. So it's pretty much a little more men than women, but it's pretty almost close to half and half.
Wash there. Wopila. Andrea Macaulay Chabashi Andrea said, Wopila, would you consider hosting other webinars to explain other ceremonies you just mentioned, like Wopa Kinte, Woapie, Hamblecha,
Yeah.
Washte, so Chapashi? I think that's with Great Plains. She works with Great Plains, so just reach out.
Mm.
Wopila like she.
Mm.
Any other questions? All right, here we got another one. I've seen women with feathers tied to their body. Is that what you were talking about? With
Yes, on their
yep.
arms.
And then they pull those as part of their
Yeah.
Wakunse,
Sacrifice.
their sacred
Wo-
vow. How do you say that? Like
Woki chunze.
Okichunze, their sacred vow. They asked, are they committed and vowed for receiving that help?
Mm-hmm.
Could the people plant? This is from Chue Whitney. Could the people plant cottonwood trees for the future generations?
Yeah, because there's so many Sundances, we might run out of Sundance Street someday.
That's a good idea. Washte, Wopla. Let's see. I don't think there's any more like she.
All right.
Just say
Thank you.
Wopila Tonka from all of us, and thank you for sharing your time, your knowledge. And there's a survey that comes out at the end of this teaching, and that provides us with more information. And like she, when all of this is concluded here, and I think June is your last teaching.
Yeah.
Then we'll be able to bring all of that together, and it supports this work that like she and Tui Ethlyn do. And so Wopila Tonka Chichie. Doksha ke like she, Doksha ke.
Have a good day, everybody.